His name? Rain in the Face, a Hunkpapa Lakota chief so feared soldiers trembled at his shadow. For decades he refused to speak. Until one day he broke his silence. Before we unravel this priceless history, please subscribe to this channel, like, comment, and turn on the notification button. Rain in the Face was a Hunkpapa Lakota Sioux chief and warrior who played a major role in the 1876 Battle of Little Bighorn, where Lieutenant Colonel George Armstrong Custer's 7th Cavalry Regiment suffered defeat. Renowned for his courage and power in combat, Rain in the Face was also believed to hold a personal grudge against Custer, accusing him of killing his brother and sister in an earlier clash. Some reports claim Rain in the Face was among the warriors who charged Custer's unit at Little Bighorn and may have even delivered the fatal blow that ended Custer's life. However, historians debate this, and the exact details of Custer's death remain uncertain. After surrendering to U.S. forces and serving time in prison, Rain in the Face later became a vocal advocate for Native American rights and a celebrated performer in Wild West shows, where he shared his wartime experiences. But before we start, don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel to support our community. If you want a story, I'll tell you a true one about myself. I was a dangerous man before I needed crutches. My heart is good now, but back then I was a fierce fighter and hunter. Women admired me, but men feared me. I'd rather fight than eat. Soldiers trembled at my presence, and the Reese and Crows checked their scalps every morning to ensure they were still intact when I was near. I was a force no one dared challenge, and my name was spoken in hushed terror. Harry spoke up, knowing how Indians like to boast. "We know you were tough, Rain," Harry said. "But we want to hear about when Tom Custer beat you. If you were so brave, how did a small man like Tom Custer overpower you?" This unsettled Rain, and he scowled. He was a large man, 5 feet 9 inches tall and 195 pounds, while Captain Tom Custer was smaller. After a long pause, Rain shared his side of the story, and surprisingly, he continued, recounting his version of the Custer massacre. He spoke with vivid gestures and raw emotion, reliving that brutal day. For years, Army officers and government agents tried to make Rain talk about the battle, but he refused. They used kindness, bribes, and even threats, but nothing worked. Rain is infamous for killing Custer, so much so that even the poet Longfellow wrote about him. So it came as a shock when Rain finally shared his story. I'm writing it exactly as McLaughlin translated it. Rain said, 2 years before the big battle, Gall and Sitting Bull had their camp at Standing Rock. All the Indians there stood against the government. They were Hunkpapa Sioux, fearless and defiant. The Yanktonais, on the other hand, were friendly Indians who lingered around the agency, begging for food and supplies. We lived well in the hostile camp, dancing, racing, shooting, and playing games. Buffalo and deer were plentiful, and we had many ponies. The girls favored me, but they'd taunt me just to stir my anger. And when I got angry, I craved a fight. One night, a girl dared me to go to Fort Lincoln and kill a white man. I told her it was too dangerous, with soldiers always on watch, and Scouts nearby. But she mocked me. "A brave man doesn't fear. If you're a coward, don't go. I'll ask someone else, someone who's danced in the sun dance." That was a challenge I couldn't ignore. The other girls laughed, but the young men stayed silent. They feared me, and I would have killed any of them for laughing. I went to my lodge, painted my face black, and took my gun, bow, and pony. Under cover of darkness, I slipped out of camp and rode to Fort Lincoln, 45 miles north. For 2 days, I waited, watching for a chance to shoot a soldier. I could have killed a woman or a woodcutter, but I wanted to bring back a soldier's brass buttons to the girl who'd laughed at me. And I did. She sewed them onto her shawl. One morning, I saw the storekeeper and a horse doctor heading to a spring. Long Yellow Hair and his men were riding back about 100 yards away. I rushed in, shot the storekeeper, and struck the horse doctor with my war club. Then I filled them with arrows and cut off some buttons. Long Yellow Hair heard the shot and charged back. I didn't have time to scalp the men I'd killed. I leaped onto my pony and shouted at them to catch me. They chased me all the way to the Cannonball River. That winter, I went to the agency store at Standing Rock. They denied me rations because I hadn't signed the peace treaty. The one-armed storekeeper was there. I wasn't afraid of him or the 30 soldiers with little hair, but he crept up behind me, and they all piled on, overpowering me. They threw me into a wagon, pinning me down until they reached the guardroom at Lincoln. They treated me like a woman, not a chief, locking me in a room, chaining me, and giving me only one blanket. The cold was relentless. Snow blew through the cracks of my prison all winter long. One day, Little Hair let me out, and the soldiers taunted me to run. I knew their game. They wanted an excuse to shoot me in the back. So I looked Little Hair in the eye and swore that if I ever escaped, I'd carve out his heart and eat it. They chained me to a white man, but one night we broke free. Gunfire chased us as we fled, ducking into the brush along the Heart River. My companion sawed through the chains with a knife, but they caught him the next day. I vanished into the wilderness, though I knew the hunt for me would never end. I returned to Sitting Bull and Gall, but they feared retaliation if they sheltered me. So I sent Little Hair a message, a buffalo hide painted with a bleeding heart, a promise. The next time we met, I kept my vow. That's all I'll say. Much of Rain's story matched government records, the murders of Sutler and Surgeon Hunsinger, but we pressed him about Tom Custer's heart. When McFadden showed Rain a sketch of Custer's last stand, Rain burst out laughing. "This is a lie," he spat. Soldiers didn't fight with swords. They had guns. They dismounted, with every fourth man holding horses. We fought naked, our bodies painted, circling them on ponies. This picture shows bows, but we had better weapons. Their guns jammed, shells stuck inside. I saw dozens littering the battlefield. When their rifles failed, we clubbed them down like sheep. Some begged. We showed no mercy. Flipping the paper, Rain slashed a rough S-shaped "nyo" with his pencil. "This is the Little Bighorn. Our lodges lined the banks like a bent bow." "How many?" and Harry asked. "Too many to count, like grass." Later, we estimated 4,000 to 6,000 warriors, 1,000 lodges. Sitting Bull had made medicine on a hill, prophesying victory. The Great Spirit said soldiers would come and we would crush them. His words filled us with fire. To deceive the re-scouts, Sitting Bull ordered empty lodges set up as decoys. Then he left to pray, returning only after the battle. Gall and Crazy Horse led the charge. I commanded a band of fierce Hunkpapa. We knew the soldiers' horses were exhausted, their scouts fooled. When they split their forces, we rejoiced. Gall cut off their retreat while young warriors flanked them. We lured them over the bluffs, then sprang the trap. Their line collapsed under our fire. Officers shouted orders, but to us, they all looked the same. I never saw Long Yellow Hair in the fray. The Ree sang their death chant, knowing the end had come. They dismounted, every fourth man holding horses, until we shot the holders and stampeded the panicked animals with waving blankets. Our women caught the strays. I was beyond reason. The war song pulsed in my veins, gunsmoke thick in my nostrils. I seized their flag, my pony dying beneath me. I clubbed the bearer, triumphant. Our warriors roared as I returned, the banner in my grip. Blood and brains sprayed my face, hot, metallic. I found another pony and charged back into the slaughter. When that one fell, I mounted a third. Then I saw Little Hair. My vow echoed in my skull. He recognized me. I laughed, screaming over the gunfire. His lips moved, but the battle drowned his words. Fear flashed in his eyes. When I closed in, I fired my revolver point blank. My gun was empty now, lost somewhere in the chaos. I leapt from my pony, sliced out his heart, bit into the still warm flesh, and spat it into his lifeless face. Then I rode off, shaking the grisly trophy like a banner. My vengeance was complete. Too exhausted to scalp him, I left the battlefield. Later, our women finished the work, slitting throats of the wounded, stripping boots for leather, even severing fingers to claim rings faster. They searched for Long Yellow Hair's scalp, but never found him. He wore no uniform, and his famous golden locks had been shorn. That night we feasted and danced around the scalps. Sitting Bull rose, proclaiming, "My medicine made you brave." But Gall scoffed, "We won the fight. You only prayed." Their rivalry festered. We could have crushed the soldiers on the hill, but their quarreling split our forces. I followed neither man. My war was over. I wanted only to dance. When word came of more soldiers advancing with artillery, we fled north across the border. Years later, I returned with Sitting Bull. This story dies with me. I've never told it to white men until now. As Rain fell silent, I pressed him. "If you didn't kill Custer, who did?" "Who knows?" He shrugged. It was chaos, like fighting blind. Mac asked why Custer alone went unscalped. "No man's too brave for the knife," Rain sneered. "The women tore that field apart. He must have been buried under corpses." When Mac mentioned Curly the Crow Scout's escape tale, Rain spat. "Liar!" His pony collapsed, and he ran like a whipped dog. Now nearing 60. Rain stands as the last living chief from that battle. He scratches his name in English, but doesn't grasp its meaning. Though he understands the language, his speech is garbled, a handful of words spat like curses. He's no saint, ruthless in war, slow to promise. But his word, once given, is iron. Age hasn't shrunk him. He still looms like Cooper's ideal savage. This raw account peels back the myth of Little Bighorn. Stay with us. More battles await their true telling. Until next time, walk with history.